Good morning, and welcome to Glucose Downloads Episode 2. What happens when you miss a dose of insulin or diabetes medication? At this point, you are not covered for the food that you eat, and your blood sugar will not be controlled. In order for the food, if we're talking bolus, to be covered by insulin, one needs to have a match in both the dose to mop up those carbs as well as the timing. And what I love most about this graph is that it clearly shows you the difference between basal and bolus. So basal is the amount of insulin you require to keep your blood sugar steady and even in the context of not eating. In the context of eating, and especially when one eats carbs, one has to carefully match the dose of carbs to the dose of short-acting insulin and understand the timing. So, for example, if you inject insulin like NovaRapid or even ActRapid, like what's available in state, that insulin requires between 20 to 30 and sometimes a little bit longer minutes of time to actually get to its peak. The top of that of that pink hoop is the peak. And then it takes between 4 to 6 hours to get out of your system. Versus an insulin like Fiasp, which takes about 5 minutes to get into your system and is out your system in 2 hours. So if you're wanting to use NovaRapid or ActRapid, you should inject about 20 to 30 minutes before you eat. Then you need to understand also how many carbs you're going to eat in that meal and try and match the amount of units that you're injecting to the carb load that you're eating. And in order to do this properly, you do need to understand what your individual insulin to carb ratio is. If you can get this match nicely, then your sugar 2 hours after you've eaten will be approximately the sugar that provided it was in range 2 hours before. If you're starting your meal in a sugar above 10 out of range, one needs to add a correction dose to the meal dose in order at the 2 hour mark to have a sugar that is in normal range. So it's kind of like maths. If you miss a dose, no dose goes in, you get no response to the dose, you have high sugar. This translates to a sticky mess inside your blood vessels and your organs. Your organs get damaged and you feel yuck. Versus if you dose, you get a response to the dose, your sugar is controlled, you do not have the sticky mess, your organs function well, and you feel lacquer, like on a Saturday when you braai. So if you're looking for control, the degree to which you manage to dose all your doses directly correlates to your good or your bad control. Getting most of your doses in means you get most of your glucose in where it's supposed to be, in control. If not, then not. I'd like to encourage you today that you can do it. So these little graphs on the left are graphs of time in range. And where you see the smaller green bar, that's less time in range with more time above range and some really high values. And where you see the graph with a lot of green, that's a higher time in range, which is what we're aiming for. What you do see in these graphs is as that time in range increased, this specific person sacrificed a few more lows, which we also don't necessarily want. But today I'd more like to encourage you. If you need reminders, set them. Set them on your phone. Make sure you've got some team members. So people who are willing to encourage you with gentle encouragement, not beratement, encouragement, because we do need courage. Courage is a heart word. It comes from cor, the Latin word for heart, and it's a French word. courage. We've all been watching the Olympics with great interest, and French is such a beautiful language. I'd like to encourage you today to find people who encourage you so that you don't miss your doses and that your sugar is in range. So I leave you with this beautiful image of a heart, and urge you to find those people who are butterflies in your life, who are willing to nurture and encourage you, because you can do it. You can get good control.